Well, hey guys, welcome back to the show. This is your host, Hunter McWaters, and this week I got an episode with you with my buddy Ned. So if you've been listening for a while or seen the Kodiak film, you've heard me talk about, or you maybe have seen Ned. He's a good friend of mine. He's one of the dudes that really got me into Western hunting. He had actually invited me on my first ever Western hunt in Alaska. We did that first hunt together, and then, of course, we did Kodiak together. So really good dude. He's a veteran, ex-Navy Special Warfare, great hunter, and fellow Virginian. So anyway, on this episode, we get into, as the title might suggest, a lot about antelope hunting, a lot about Alaska, and then we talk about ammunition. That's pretty knowledgeable as far as different cartridges and loads and stuff like that. So we talk about the 300 Win Mag versus Creedmoor for elk and different stuff. But we focus a lot on Alaska and antelope season because Ned, as you'll find out in the episode, is going to be moving up to Alaska soon, and he's working on different pilot's licenses and stuff like that. So Lord willing, I will have a friend in Alaska that has a aircraft, in the next couple years, which just opens up a ton of cool doors. So, obviously I'd still be friends with Ned even if he didn't move to Alaska, but, it's just a cool thing to have if you are blessed with a friend like that. So anyway, again, Ned's a great guy. Also, Ned drew a really premier antelope tag in Nevada this year, and this is one of the first times he's really drawn like an awesome tag like this. So I wanted to get him on and talk about it. And if you've been on my social media, you might have seen in my story, I just got a little picture in my message inbox of him with a nice buck. So he did fill his tag. However, we recorded this episode before that hunt, but we talk about the hunt and antelope hunting in general, and kind of some e-scouting and just different stuff like that. So if you're heading out for antelope, or if you're heading to Alaska, now's the time of year. So I hope this will get you pumped up, and even if you're sticking around home in your home state, hunting deer or waiting for dove season to open, whatever it may be, it's a really exciting time of year. Fall is in the air, and seasons are starting to open up everywhere. So I'm really excited about, what's coming down the line. I know you guys are too. So again, whether you're heading out west, whether you live out west, or if you're sticking around home, there's adventure to be had everywhere, even right in your own back door. So I hope you enjoy this conversation with me and Ned. And I'm heading out soon on my antelope hunt, so Lord willing, I'll fill a tag or two there, and then me and Ned will get back together, at some point, during the season or after the season, and I'll get a recap of his Nevada antelope hunt, and then also give a recap to him about filling my Wyoming tag, Lord willing. So anyway, guys, enjoy this episode, and check out the discount codes I got in the description field, and we'll see you guys on the next one. So if you're just joining, I am here with my buddy who I talk about actually a lot on this podcast. I don't know if you know it, but I end up mentioning you a lot. So I'm here with my buddy Ned, who I went on my first. If you've been a long-time listener, you probably heard of Ned or even listened to the episodes we did together in the beginning about our first Alaska trip. But Ned really got me into Western hunting by inviting me on my first ever Western hunt. It was a DIY caribou thing, and that really changed my life and launched me into kind of doing this whole podcast and everything. So Ned is an OG, so welcome, sir.
Nice, man. Glad to be here. Always good to catch up.
Yeah, and if you've seen the Kodiak film, also you saw Ned drop a 107-inch blacktail buck.
Something like that, man. Biggest one that I'll ever have anything to do with.
Yeah, he's also really humble, if you can't tell. So, but Ned is the dude who was in the Kodiak film with me, we were it was kind of funny because when we went on that first trip, we didn't really know each other that well. I mean, kind of a friend of a friend, and Ned sort of hit me up on Instagram. It was just good timing. but that was kind of interesting, wasn't it?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, we'd hunted a few times in like high school and college and stuff,
Yeah.
and that was kind of a crazy idea that I had for
Yeah.
that trip. And I knew that it would definitely take someone else who really enjoys the finer things in life, like pain and misery and suffering and small chances of success. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know, man.
That trip like
Yeah,
opened my
it's,
eyes up to the possibilities, man. Like I came back with that thing with so much more confidence because I remember when we moved to our second spot and like we saw some animals way up on this ridge and you were like, "All right, we're going up there." And I was like, "What? Are you kidding me? Like we're going to walk up that?" And you're like, "Yeah, we'll do it just one step at a time." And that's what it was, man. We just did it. And after that coming back, it just made me so much more confident and just that you can do stuff like that. You know what I mean?
oh yeah. I mean, truly, dude, we did great on that trip.
Yeah.
I was actually just talking with some guys. I was up there last week and talking with some guys who've done similar profile hunts to that. And yeah, man, we saw some really great country, put some good miles in, great experience. Yeah, I think we've discussed this a few times before, but that's like the most difficult possible way to try to harvest a caribou, basically.
Yeah. Basically, we
And
did walk-in
yeah,
DIY.
we saw legal animals, fast legal animals.
Yep. We did basically a walk-in. I think there's a little bit of a lag, so sorry about that. But yeah, we did basically a walk-in DIY caribou hunt and had at least two, which in retrospect were probably legal animals, but we intentionally did not pull a trigger because we just weren't on the same page about whether it was a legal animal or not because, cows have antlers and these were small bulls. So we weren't 100% sure. So I think we made the right call, but either way, it was like you said, an amazing experience, life-changing trip. So it was good.
Yeah, man. I mean, got out there, passed some legal animals, saw a bunch of other animals, saw some awesome country. So
Yeah, man.
that's about all you can ask for, man.
So you mentioned it. You were just up there in Alaska. So tell folks what you're up to and why you were just there. And tell me kind of what happened.
Well, yeah, for sure, man. So I'm a pilot. I'm a flight instructor for anyone who doesn't know me. So I was up there getting my seaplane rating. So I'm now a seaplane instructor, which is truly a pretty useless certification to have in the state of Virginia. But it's really good stuff. I'm moving up to Alaska here in the next few years, and obviously, you got to have that up there.
Oh yeah.
So I just went ahead and got that knocked out. Then me and some buddies fit in a few days of hiking, salmon and trout fishing on the back end of that down in the Chugach Wilderness area.
Nice.
And well, I guess it'd be the Kenai Wilderness near the Chugach National Forest. But yeah, down on the Kenai Peninsula, just hiked in, caught some trout, ate a ton of blueberries, and had a great time, man. It was super fun.
Yeah, dude. So why are you moving? I know why, but why are you moving to Alaska? Are you allowed to talk about
Yeah,
it?
they asked me that in my interview for my job last year, and I was like, "Oh, because it's the greatest place on earth." And they were like, "Okay, that settles that." It is, man. If you're obsessed with the outdoors in the way that I think you and me and probably a lot of the people that listen to you are, Alaska is just, that's it. It's the last frontier. It's the ultimate. Yeah, I think I've been up there like 14 times now or 15 times or something.
Mm-hmm.
And, I was active duty for 7 years after college, and my little retirement gift to myself was a blacktail trip up there. And when I shot my blacktail then in 2019, I just decided on the spot. I was like, this is too sick. you only go around one time in life, and you know, not getting any younger. Got to do it sooner than later. So I decided right there that I was going to move up there. And after that, I went through, got all my pilot's licenses, and yeah, now I've got a job up there that I'm doing all the in processing stuff for, and hopefully be up there sooner than later.
Okay, if you guys can't tell yet, sometimes you have to pull things out of Ned. Are you allowed to say what your job is that you're working towards?
Oh yeah, man, it's not like anything. Sorry.
So
Yeah,
secretive.
that's just old habits about being kind of a weirdo about work. But yeah, man, I'm gonna be flying Blackhawks for the Alaska Air Guard up there. So
So sick.
knock on wood, hoping that all this in processing stuff goes smoothly.
Yeah.
But yeah, if in 2026 ish time frame, if you hit that SOS button on your inReach, then you might just see me.
Oh, that's crazy, man. So that's and it's been quite a process. I mean, you've been in the process of this for a couple years now already. Is that right?
Yeah, it's not uncommon for the process to be long for this specific facet of the military. It's a really unique kind of small program that a lot of times takes a while. I got selected for it last year, and they just got to go over everything about your life, especially the medical side of things, being prior service, and me having a bunch of overseas deployments and everything. They just want to go over your whole life with a fine tooth comb. So in the process of doing that right now.
Because it's not like you're going to be sitting in a firehouse. Yeah, it's like not like you're going to be sitting in a firehouse and like getting one call a month or something. Like those guys are pretty busy, I'm assuming, in Alaska, right?
Oh yeah. They I'm pretty sure they get the most calls of any Air Guard unit. Alaska's just such a different animal than anywhere in the lower 48. The guys that I talked to last year when I was doing my interview said that they stay real busy, especially this time of year.
Yeah, I bet.
So yeah, you definitely get some good hours in. It's a great way to get very, very good at flying a Black Hawk helicopter is what I understand. So yeah, excited to get that going here.
Dude, I can't believe you went to Alaska in August without a tag in your pocket. That would just make me crazy. But...
man, I was supposed to fly out on August 10th, and opening day for sheep and caribou, and even down to ptarmigan and small game and stuff. And of course, American canceled my flight last minute, and so I was just like sitting there in Anchorage, like watching people fish Ship Creek, like waiting for 3 different flights that got canceled on opening day. And it was a beautiful day, excellent conditions to fly in and be hunting. And I was just like sitting around downtown Anchorage, hating my life. So,
dude,
yeah, it's pretty painful, man. That one was an L for sure.
Yeah. Downtown Anchorage. The only time I've been there is kind of similar, like waiting either to come in or come out, and is semi-depressing. I guess because you're like thinking you're in Alaska, but then you're like in this city, and it's just kind of weird. But I mean, it's a cool city. I'm not saying it's not a cool city, but like when you want to be in the field and it's like hunting season, you don't want to be in downtown Anchorage, probably.
Yeah, Los Anchorage, man. Yeah, on August 10th, being in downtown just like means that something went wrong on your end.
Exactly.
But that's all right, man. It was good. I got a little bit of professional development in this year rather than just going up and
just straight up fun.
Kind of establishing the resume a little bit on the aviation side of the house up there.
So you can full on, like, you're good to go for like flying seaplanes.
Yes. Yeah.
That's
sick,
man.
Once you've got your license, you're good. The only stipulation there is that you got to have 3 landings and takeoffs within the past 90 days in one in order to carry passengers. And of course, there are not a lot of seaplanes kicking around in Central Virginia.
Yeah.
So basically, to use one, I got to go get current in it. They call that getting checked out with whoever is renting you the plane. But yeah, I've got the rating now. It's super fun. Seaplane flying is like, it's very artistic. For anyone who hasn't flown with a seaplane transporter or never been in a seaplane, it's the parameters, all of the numbers about it are kind of loosely defined because of the nature of flying on water. Like for most planes, there are all these tables that you can look up in the pilot operating handbook, POH. And for seaplanes, it's not really like that, because the sea state may be different one day, and your takeoff roll may be a lot different than it was on other days. So it's really a lot about being one with your aircraft and knowing your plane. And yeah, man, it's just really, really cool kind of flying. I was kind of drinking from a fire hose there, did the whole course in 3 days, which is like very, very fast paced. But yeah, I got it done. The pilot examiner that did my check ride for me was a really cool guy. We talked a ton about Alaskan aviation, and yeah, it's just, I mean, that world up there, man, you could spend 10 lifetimes exploring it and still, just barely have scratched the surface. So
yeah, I know. And that's,
it was really cool to kind of get my feet wet.
Yeah, that's like what was so cool to me about that first experience in Alaska when I went with you was like, I remember just like when we set off from our U-Haul van, and it was just like, we were going to go maybe 5 to 7 miles in, but like, having studied the maps and stuff, like you could just keep going for like ever and like never hit a town, never hit a road. I mean, eventually at some point, obviously at some point, but I mean like, just an enormously vast expanse of land, like full of probably some animals that may live and die their entire lives and never see a human. Like, just the possibility and like the adventure that kind of brings to mind is just so cool. And so, I got to thank you for kind of putting that love for Alaska in me, which I think I told you, but I will be going up there in 2023. But what's your, I'm just curious, like, 2-part question. So you have whatever rating you would need to fly a Cub already, right? And then what's your timeline for going up there?
Well, you'll have to ask the Air Force on that one, because it's not up to me at this point, unfortunately. As soon as they send me, then basically I'll be doing somewhere in the neighborhood of 18 months of rotor wing training. So learning to fly helicopters might be a little bit longer than that. So that is pretty much all lower 48. So right now it's realistically probably looking like early 25, something like that, late 24.
Nice.
Yeah, I mean, all of my pilot's licenses, all the flying that I've done has been on the civilian side.
Yeah.
So I have to kind of start over, from scratch, so to speak, with the military aviation thing. So that's going to officer candidate school, and then flight school, and then a bunch of stuff to get qualified in the HH60 platform. But yeah, man, I mean, as soon as I can is the best answer I can
I
give.
know you're ready to get up there.
Oh man, I'm going to try, if there are any breaks in the training pipeline there during August, September, I'm going to try to get up there for hunts. 'Cause man, I just, it just pains me so much to even think about missing a year going up there. But you gotta think of the long game. It's for
Absolutely.
a good cause. And yeah, I'm hoping that I'll have all my ducks really in a row once I do get up there to be in a pretty good place to fly us into some cool caribou hunts, get
Dude.
redemption for that one 2 years ago.
Dude, I mean, yeah, that's gonna be sick. Like, it's just so hard to even just a caribou like drop camp. It's so hard these days and so pricey. So I mean, like, just yeah, I'm stoked for you for your job and everything, but I've got to be honest. I'm a little bit selfishly stoked that I will have a buddy in Alaska potentially with an aircraft.
Oh man, I mean, that's like, yeah, like you gotta be honest about that. Anyone would be stoked. I'd be stoked if I had a friend up there with a cub right now.
Yeah,
yeah. I mean, you're saying like the expense and everything, and the weight is so crazy, but like really, it's just at this point the ability to have a good hunt. It's just so much harder. If you're planning to hunt 3 years out, like who knows what kind of personal circumstances can come up,
for sure.
whether your transporter is even going to be in business by then. Because like the first transporter that I flew in with to shoot a caribou in 2018 I got an email last year saying that the operation was for sale and they were going out of business. So, it's just really hard to plan it as a non-resident these days, to be very honest. It's
plus if you got a young family and
getting tougher and tougher.
Yeah, I mean, if you got a young family and you have like career stuff that you don't know about, or like right now I'm literally trying, like my wife, we're thinking about having another kid at some point, and it's like we're like seriously like trying to like figure out like timing of like trying to not have a baby like certain times of the year. It's just like because of hunting season, which might sound insane to some people, but probably not people listening to this. But yeah, dude, that's amazing, man. I'm stoked for you. I know I've said it before, but congrats on that. That's a really cool opportunity. And I'm not just stoked because you could potentially fly us in on some cool hunts. I'm also just stoked for you. So that's sick, man. I know you love Alaska, so.
Yeah, man. I mean, yeah, like I said, every time I'm up there, I just like, I hate leaving. The flight out is so beautiful and so depressing at the same time. It's like, it's just so sad to, be flying away, leaving it. So, yeah, man, I just can't wait to get up there.
Yeah, for some reason, right when you were saying that, just like the memory of us cleaning those deer at the municipal fish dock in Kodiak, and then walking through town with your like ginormous blacktail buck, and then caping the deer out in the hotel room of the Shelikoff Lodge, and like I think at one point you dropped a small piece of brain on accident on the floor, and I was just laughing uncontrollably. And I still have a picture of like a blacktail brain on the floor of the Shelikoff Lodge.
Yeah, that's kind of the non-resident thing, living by the skin of your teeth, living at a lodges, like not knowing anyone.
Airbnbs
compared to, renting vehicles and all that stuff. Compared to 2019 when I was up there, my buddy Colby, who was in the Coast Guard, we just processed everything in his garage, and it was so nice. It was like, oh well. You need a hacksaw, or you need some more freezer bags, or whatever. Yeah, we got all that. It was like a little taste of what being a resident is going to be like. And
although we did get you hooked through your like ex-military connections, or somehow I don't even remember how it all went down, but somehow Ned was able to get us into the MWR fish cleaning station at the Kodiak like air or Coast Guard base, and we were able to like vacuum seal all our meat and stuff. That was money.
Yeah, man, those chamber sealers are undefeated. Those things, like I had some blacktail from 2019 like a few months ago, and it was still good.
Oh yeah, I still got some.
Yeah, those chamber sealers are incredible. Is my video messing up?
I canned your video because it's laggy, and I'm wondering if that might help the connection. So it's all good.
Yeah, cool,
All right.
man.
Well, so we could probably sit here and reminisce about Alaska forever. But I know that you also have a really I know you have one really sick antelope tag. And then do you have any other stuff coming up? But I want to hear about that antelope tag.
Yeah. I've got a really sick antelope tag that I'm very excited for, and I've also got.
Can you say the state it is in?
One of the. Yeah. Got finally pulled a Nevada antelope tag.
Nice.
Northern Nevada. Pretty stoked on that, man. It was, to put it mildly, extremely long draw odds for that, but somehow, I was just kind of throwing a Hail Mary there, and somehow got drawn. That was the first limited entry, so to speak. It was the first desirable tag really of any species that I've ever drawn. All my hunts have either been over the counter or second choice, or in units that don't take a ton of points or no points at all. So
remind me,
my first time starting to
I forget, is Nevada's a points state, right? It's not random, correct?
That's correct. They use bonus points in Nevada. So bonus points versus preference points, a little bit different. Like a preference point system, if you and I both apply for the same tag and you have 5 points, I have 4, then you get the tag.
Yeah.
A bonus point system, if you have 5 points and I have 4 points, then basically the way Nevada does it is you get the squared number of points as entries into the hat. So you would get 25 entries and I would get 16 entries in that example. Actually, they also add +1 to that for the year that you're applying, I guess. So I would get 17, you would get 26 entries. But it does give everyone a chance. Whereas in a strict preference point system, if you have more points, then you definitely get the tag.
For sure. Okay.
So it's cool in that sense. But the negative side of things is that the odds in Nevada these days are really just getting so long that it is kind of playing the lottery. Even if, I think I had 4 or 5 years worth of points in Nevada.
Okay.
And
4 or 5
my
points.
odds for drawing this tag were less than, so I had 4 or 5 bonus points, and my odds of drawing this tag, as of last year's data, were less than 1 in 10,000. So
wow.
It's and it's that way for a lot of hunts out there. So that's kind of the downside to it. They have a great system out there, and although I don't have any experience with it yet, I hear that they do a phenomenal job managing their wildlife, and really cool place to hunt. But the opportunity, especially if you're just starting to get in after the COVID surge in applications, the opportunity is really tough getting tags out there.
So that's a rifle hunt, correct?
They phrase it as any legal weapon.
Okay.
So you could use a rifle, you could also use archery tackle, whatever is legally good to go by the weapons restrictions in Nevada. But I'll be taking a rifle.
For sure, man.
Want to make this one count, because I'm not ever going to draw this tag again. So,
and so I'm going to ask you questions about it. I don't want to get, obviously too specific about your unit and stuff. So feel free to, if you don't want to answer a question, it's fine. But so you're going to do any legal weapons. You're going to do a rifle. And when are you heading out there? When's it open, or when are you heading out?
We heading out on Saturday. So
nice.
Hopefully I'll be in place on the X the day before season opens on the 22nd. which is not really an adequate amount of scouting time. But again, that's kind of just par for the course for being a non-resident. You kind of just got to take it as it comes.
Yeah.
It's a really great tag, like I said, that I will probably never interact with again. And I know that a lot of people would be thinking like, oh man, I got to make this, I got to hold out for a real trophy animal. I'm not going to shoot one that's under 70 inches or whatever. But that's really not the way that I'm viewing this one because understanding all the limitations I have relative to, say, a guy who lives near there and knows the area really well. Realistically, if I see a nice buck that is mature, has good character, cool looking animal, probably going to send it because, as a non-resident having one of these tags and, basically I got 4 hunting days for this. Then say you get weathered out, say you got 30, 40 mile an hour winds or something, crazy like that one day, then you got 3 days of hunting and, never know what happens. You have mechanical issues. All of a sudden your hunting time gets whittled down a lot. So, I'm going to be selective in terms of age class of animals.
Sure.
For sure. I definitely don't want to burn the tag on a young buck or anything that I'm going to regret burning it on. But I'm not going to be like super, super picky and put a number on things that I'm going to exclude anything less than that.
I'm with you on that, dude. Yeah. Like just as far as the way I hunt and my hunts I got coming up too. I mean, like you said, as a non-resident, it changes things, and the fact that I'm still relatively new into the Western hunting, so it's like, I'll get stoked by a mule deer that probably someone who's been hunting mule deer their entire lives might not be as stoked about, but that's okay. And it's just the kind of thing where it's like, I'm the same with you. Like, I don't like putting a number or a score or anything. It's just like, if I see that animal and you just know, it's like, yes, like that is a shooter for me. You know what I mean?
Yeah, man. I don't know. It's kind of weird interacting with the whole scoring system. So like when we got back from Kodiak last year, you remember that guy in the airport who came up and he was like, let me see that thing, and he's like looking at it, and apparently he owned a lodge on Raspberry or something. He was like, you got to get that scored. That's the biggest blacktail I've ever seen or something like that. And like he was absolutely correct. Like that animal did need to be scored, and I went ahead and called one of the BNC measurers up and met him up here and had it taped out and everything. Nice. And actually, that was a really cool experience because the guy who measured it for me is an awesome hunter, makes his own trad bows, obviously super experienced outdoorsman. It was just like really cool talking to him and getting to meet him. And he's actually going to be hunting a mule deer tag not too far from where I'm going to be in Nevada. So
nice.
That was a cool connection. But like, I remember when he was telling me the score and everything, he was taping it out and he was like, all right, 100's the minimum. It's 107. He's in. I was like, okay, cool. Like he's in the book. That really doesn't matter anywhere nearly as much. And I was holding the rack and I was thinking about like the number value that gets assigned to it versus like the memories and the experience that you had up there. And it just struck me like how secondary that like very numerical value that they assign to an animal is. Like, I know you got to do it somehow, but I was just holding the rack and I was like, man, like the memories of that experience, I'm definitely not going to forget that day. I'll remember it until the day that I die. And awesome. Like,
and the fact that we got it on camera
assigned to it is just like, on the bottom of the ninth, on a crazy hunt where we saw all of the highs and lows of a place that's just as incredible and wild as Kodiak. So like, cool. All of those memories and that experience, like that's just so much more important than like, any number that an animal could get. So I guess that's kind of where I'm going with on this antelope hunt is like, I'm going to be hunting this with one of my buddies that I went through training with,
Cool.
who is a great guy. One of my oldest friends from the military. Actually, his son's going to tag along too, and just like the
Cool.
experience of getting to go out there and like share a hunt like that
Yeah.
is so much more valuable than like, oh man, I got to eke out every last inch of score from an animal. Like, oh, I'd better pass that one because this
Right.
is the class of animal that I can expect from this unit or blah, blah, blah. Like that
Yeah.
just doesn't come into the equation, man. It's all about like, having a cool experience out there.
Totally, man. To me, it's like it's all about just that feel. Like it's like, you know, it's just something kind of you can't really articulate, and like even the particular experience of that one animal plays into it as well. Like if I, just making an example. I'm not even saying this is true for me, but just making an example. If I had seen my blacktail, like early in the trip or like the first day or something, like, maybe we wouldn't have taken it. We probably would have, but I'm just saying as for example's sake. But like
Yeah.
the fact that the way that the hunt went, where we shot that first deer, Tommy shot that first deer on the first full day, then basically saw nothing for 4 days, and then it was the last morning, this gorgeous morning, the crisp, you can see our breath, and the light is just beautiful, and then we had this 2 bucks together and managed to get a double right there at the end. Like I didn't even look at the size of the antlers, dude. I was just like, this is amazing. Like, I'm definitely shooting. You know what I mean? Like, or, just to me, it's like when you see that animal, it just, you just know without, and I'm the same way, man. I don't get wrapped up in scores or anything like that. It's just like, yep, that one gets me excited.
Yeah, man. Like that moment when we saw those two animals, it was like, you're exactly right. We both just intuitively knew, like, okay, this is it. Like,
Yeah.
it's just such an incredible experience. Like, yeah, that is what everybody goes up to Alaska for. And, inches of antler really is a very low on the priority list at that point. It was just an awesome encounter that we had with those animals in a really
Yep.
incredible location. Hours before we were supposed to get picked up. Beautiful day. Is like,
Yep.
yeah, when everything falls into place, man, you just got to go with the flow.
Yep. That was like this, yeah. And also, like you said, sharing the experience with, a really good friend. My hat's off to the guys that can solo hunt and stuff, and I've done it, but to me, it's just much more enjoyable experience. Like, when you have someone to share the joy with, and I get why solo hunting at times would be cool too, but getting to share that, and then maybe putting kind of imparting a love for the outdoors into his son, while you're out there, like this this film I just released recently of my antelope, this guy right here from last year. He's a pretty nice buck, but even if I had shot a doe, just the fact that I was out there and shared it with my cousin helped him. Like, I walked them through getting their preference points, basically did the draw applications for them, got them out there. And that just makes it so much more just, I don't know, the memory is just amazing. You saw that.
Yeah, man.
You saw that film, didn't you?
Yeah. Yeah. It was like I was telling you, when you were asking me like, yo, what do you think of the film? Like, do you think that, do you think that this like captures it well and everything? I was like, yeah, dude, obviously, like you said, there were some things like your shot, the shot of you getting your buck, like, yeah, you probably could have, had like the camera focused a little bit better at that point or whatever.
Yeah, it was way
but the film
overexposed.
captures beautifully. Yeah. But the film captures really beautifully like the excitement leading up to that point. and you guys, like overcoming all of the obstacles, like as cousins, as hunting buddies that you encounter in a hunt like that. And anyone who's ever been out there doing that, like they know what the deal is, and the way that you captured that film really helps you relive that kind of thing if you've been out there on a hunt like that before. And the excitement for the experience is very genuine. That's really obvious from that film. And me personally, I just like seeing that really cool footage of the groups of animals that you got. Knowing that I have a pronghorn tag in my pocket right now, when I was watching it, I was just getting super stoked. They're just such cool animals.
They really are, man. They're so unique.
Being out in that environment.
Yeah, they're such cool, unique animals.
I think I sent you that entry the other day from Meriwether Lewis's journal. I'm reading a book, Undaunted Courage, right now, about the Lewis and Clark expedition. And it was funny. It was right when you sent me that link. I was reading a journal entry by Lewis talking about how hard antelope are to hunt. And it's true, man. Those things are they keep you on your toes during your stalk, that's for sure.
Yeah. You said one of your buddies saw it too. Is that your buddy that you're going with, or is that somebody else?
Yeah, it is. That's my buddy Mike. Like I said, him and his son are going to fly up from the West Coast. So
you liked it?
We were all just talking about how cool the terrain is and how stoked we are to get out there and chase those things around, man.
Cool, man. Well, shameless plug, and then we'll move on. But if you haven't seen it yet, go to my YouTube channel and watch that film. Is really fun hunt, and got a lot more cool stuff coming out this year. But enough on that. Thanks for watching that, by the way, and giving your input. So is the style of hunt similar to kind of what you saw in that film? Or are you doing it kind of more in a backcountry style, or how are you going to attack the hunt?
It's going to be pretty similar to what you guys were doing. I think the area where we are is probably not going to be quite as plainsy as where I was going to ask about the terrain as well. The part of it. Yeah. Without getting too specific, I understand that there's some elevation in this unit, and that there can potentially be antelope in the elevation, which would be pretty cool. I'd be really interested to see that. Man. I mean, we're my personal technique. I don't really like being in vehicles. I like, as we alluded to from that 2020 caribou hunt, my strategy is basically to find good habitat and apply boot leather. Just kind of when you're antelope hunting, you hear this all the time, but you can look at attractive land and say, okay, I don't see any animals on this. And then if you just sit there and have a cup of coffee or whatever for 10 minutes, you'll see groups of animals that appear out of those subtle folds in topography.
Oh, yeah.
As if they just appeared out of thin air, man. There can be, I remember the first antelope hunt I did out in Wyoming, we were doing that exact thing, actually. We just kind of stopped the truck and took a break. We'd been glassing this big basin, and we just kind of like turned the truck off, sat down, we're having a snack, and a herd of like 7 or 8 animals, one of which was a very nice buck, appeared over this hillside only a few hundred yards away from us. And it was in an area that we had spent some time looking at. And that's, it's probably intuitive to people who live out there. But if you're coming from the East Coast, the majority of animals are not going to be visible to you just from your initial look at a piece of land. They're like
experts. So they're like experts at hiding, literally like in plain sight. Like they will disappear into topography that you wouldn't even think like a grasshopper could hide in. Like I remember on this hunt I was on that we were talking about with the film, it was like we didn't see anything. We actually went up to this ridge, and right when we got up there, I saw a side by side with two guys like ride off. I'm like, oh man, we're screwed. Like we're done. And we decided to kind of like be patient and work around, kind of do like a little bit of like a pincher move to try to get around to where we thought they might be. And we're up there looking and kind of trying to be patient, and like, you know, couldn't see anything. To your naked eye, you're like, there's no animals here. Like you can see everything. And then like we went up this tiny fold, like there was just this nothing little thing, and boom, there they are, like staring at us basically, like the doe was, and the buck didn't see us, but they can hide in plain sight. It's crazy.
That exact same thing happened on my antelope hunt last year. I went out there last year with some of my buddies from school, and we just had 2 doe tags. First time I'd ever done a hunt with just doe tags, and it was super cool, man. But yeah, same thing. We we hiked in. Basically, I was using the edge of this ridge as cover. So we were hiking, you know, about 3/4 of the way up this ridge, and we would just kind of like pop over and look. And this ridge presented a really commanding view of this little valley below it extending to the north. Mm-hmm. And we like came up to the end of this ridge, and we kind of like really quietly creep up to the top, peek over. There's nothing in this valley. And so we're like, oh, okay, we can hop down in there and make our way over to our next ridge to glass. And I kind of thought, I was like, well, you know, there still could be animals in here, but whatever. We'll just make our way to that next ridge because we're more likely to see them in this area that we haven't looked at yet. And then sure enough, as soon as we started like hauling across this relatively open area, bam, herd of like 5 or 6 of them shows up 200 yards away. And it's like, okay, well, so yeah, they're, like you said, man, they're experts at hiding. And yeah, that's really
where they
like,
live. They live on the plains. They
really
have to be able to hide in that, you know, like that's what they're masters of that terrain.
Yeah, man. They definitely are. They're just such crazy animals. I don't know. I think you mentioned this in your video, but that like the way that pronghorn evolved is just so wild. You know, being able to, you know, everybody knows how fast they are and everything. That speed was evolved to outrun the now extinct North American cheetah. Yeah. And that like their closest living relative is the giraffe.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Crazy animals, man. And yeah, it's apparently taxonomically they're closest to, it's a tie between giraffe and an animal called the okapi, O-K-A-P-I.
Is that weird Mongolian antelope with the wiggly nose?
I think you're thinking of the Saiga antelope.
Yeah,
is the one with that crazy nasal tube. Okapis, I think, are a little more southern than Mongolia. But yeah, there's just, you know, like very clearly nothing else like them on the continent of North America. And yeah, man, basically what we're going to do to get back to our techniques is we're going to, like, we found good areas and we're going to just take some long hikes and spend a lot of time glassing and, you know, the key for me is going to be to try to set up a successful stalk environment towards the end of the day, because daytime highs out there are close to 90.
Wow.
But overnight lows are going to be getting all the way down into the low 50s, maybe even high 40s. So best case scenario would be a very short tracking job right at sundown. And that way you don't have super hot temps when you're trying to butcher an animal. I like, if possible, I would love to let one hang overnight if the temps do get down into the 40s. I find that really does a lot in terms of helping the tenderness and flavor of your meat.
Yeah. Are you guys camping out in the hunt area?
No, we've got a little cabin rented.
Cool.
In a little town near where we're gonna be. So
nice.
I already told my buddy, disclaimer, the hunt is gonna be run on East Coast time. We'll be we'll be heading out there well before sunlight every day, and then you hang out there all day, and then kind of start trying to locate a herd that you can maybe make a stalk on in the afternoon.
Yeah, that's good, man. Like that's
yeah,
a good.
We're just day hunting.
Yeah, that's a good strategy though, because, and I'm kind of guilty of this myself too. But a lot of guys, will kind of get a little, maybe get a little lazy on antelope. They have this reputation of, if you can get even just like a mile away from a road, like you might be looking at animals that most guys drive right past, and a lot of guys don't get out there to the unit till like 9:30 in the morning. And we kind of did that too on ours because we were staying in town and it was just a little bit of a drive, and mainly that was because we were with my dad and my uncle, who, I mean, my dad, I love him, but he's not the type to like sleep in a tent for multiple nights. So, but I think that's a good strategy, and that's kind of what I'm going to employ as well on my hunt, which I'm actually more, I don't know if nervous is the right word, but like I'm more stressed a little bit about my antelope hunt than any other hunt, even though like physically it's going to be the easiest hunt, is just because I'm going to a 0.100% draw unit with very limited access to public, but we're going to get out there a day early to scout, and my plan is to camp in the unit and literally be there just like sunrise on our spots every morning, and just work and grind until we fill some tags. So I'm hoping it'll work out.
Yeah, man. I mean, that's really the key that I have found for antelope hunting out there. Is it's like, most people are going to use the roads and use infrastructure to their advantage, which is a totally legitimate technique. But if you're a non-resident who doesn't have good intel on the area and is not super familiar with it, then hey man, you find somewhere that is difficult to access, and get in there early, as far as you can. And that's basically what we're gonna do.
It's gonna be interesting to see, like it'll be funny to see. I don't know. It's just gonna be interesting to see like how your hunt goes down versus my hunt goes down. You're like in a premier, like sick area, like super hard to draw. I'm in like, you can still probably buy a leftover tag for my unit. So it'll be interesting to see like how it goes down. But I have like between, I think I have 8 or 9 full hunt days planned though. So like I should be able to get something done in that amount of time.
If you have 8 or 9 hunt days for just that antelope tag, then yeah, man, I think a guy who is in your kind of physical ability class, and as long as you can shoot straight, I think you should be okay. Knowing how dedicated you are to crossing all your T's and dotting your I's, that's a very long time for an antelope tag.
It is. I'm hoping we can head home early, but like I don't want to come home without an antelope.
Yeah. No, you'll be just fine, man. And also, you kind of alluded to this earlier, but to make you feel better about that, in addition to having one of the most desirable antelope tags out there, I also have one of the least desirable antelope tags out there that I picked up off the Wyoming list.
Yeah.
So no secrets about that one. That's Unit 10 doe tag, and it's like they give a lot of them out. There's a tiny amount of public, and it's going to be a pretty weird hunt. So I'm going to be right there in the trenches.
Are you going to do that hunt
if I end up going to do that? I'm trying to make it work, man. I'm starting a new job, flying in 2 weeks, so I kind of got to see how the schedule shakes out with that. But if I can escape for a long weekend to run out there for 2 or 3 days, then I'm going to go give it a peek. Because realistically, you can cover all of the public land in that unit in about an afternoon. So
Yeah, I'm complaining about
Yeah.
limited public in my unit, and compared to that one, I think there's probably more public land in my unit than your entire unit's entire area. It's a tiny unit.
Yes. Yeah, it's a tiny area, and a tiny percentage of it is public.
Yeah.
So there's a reason tags are very easy to get there. There are like, it's the tale of landlocked public. There are like 2 or 3 tracts that probably would be pretty good, but you literally would have to either take a helo or jump into them because they're landlocked on all sides, and there are there's no way. So yeah, man,
Cool.
I'm gonna try to, I got a few squirrely little ideas that I may be able to get on some animals with, but yeah, that tag is going to be the highest level of difficulty in terms of finding animals and competition. So
Yeah.
you're not alone in that sense.
Yeah, I keep, like, the other day I was just like in my head overthinking it and like freaking out, and I texted Jaden Bales, and like that dude always makes me feel better. He's just so positive. He was just like, "Oh, you'll be fine, man." Like there's just a lot of antelope in eastern Wyoming, and with the amount of time I got, planned, and the amount of e-scouting I've been doing, like I have faith we'll make something happen. So I'm not too worried about it, but so I hope everybody is getting stoked about antelope season now that we're talking about this stuff. And again, go check out the film if you're jonesing for some antelope content. But one more topic I did want to breach with you just a little bit is something we talk about a lot. Is so I bought. Actually, it's right here. I'll show you. So Ned is the guy that originally, when he got me into hunting, he. I needed, basically the first trip we went on, I had a little, just to show like how inexperienced and stuff I was. You probably remember this, Ned. Like I had like one of those, like, the rifle's actually not bad, but it was like one of those like package deals you get with like a scope mounted on there from the factory, and it was just like a total piece of garbage, and like the rings were garbage, and like about a week before the trip I noticed the scope had slid back like a quarter of an inch, and just like a debacle. But with Ned's help, I was able to actually get a rig that was somewhat Alaska ready. And then, as I'm on the trip, I started realizing like this is something I want to do and invest in getting the right gear and stuff. And so Ned talked me into, well, not talked me into, we talked a lot about it. And I ended up going with, for my first real nice backcountry rifle, a 6.5 Creedmoor. And I've had a lot of success with it. Actually, all 3 of these animals you see behind me, whitetail, a blacktail, and an antelope, all of these fell to my Creedmoor. The blacktail and the antelope did not take one step. They dropped dead in their tracks. The whitetail did run, but I was using a Hornady ELDX bullet. These ones I was using a homemade, by Ned, copper solid, copper mono bullet hammer. So, and I shot another whitetail with it, with Ned and I's round that we put together, and that one did drop pretty much as well. So, however, I have an elk tag this year, and me and Ned might vary a little bit here, but I went ahead and I got a 300 Win Mag. And Ned thinks I'm crazy.
Well, I definitely don't think you're crazy, man. That is a beautiful rifle.
Dude, this thing is sick. This is a Seekins Precision. Seekins Precision Havoc element. Sorry, there's a lag. We keep talking over each other. But if you are watching this on YouTube, I'm just showing the Seekins Precision Havoc element. I ordered this at the expo last year, and I just got this about 2 months ago. They just stopped taking online orders because they were selling so many of these things. They can't keep up with the demand, but I'm going to have Maddie Nelson from Seekins on the podcast in a week or so. But anyway, the reason is because, and I want Ned to talk about this because he's very knowledgeable about ballistics and stuff, but As I said before, I had really good luck with that Creedmoor on game animals. I am going to be using that on at least one hunt this year, especially with that copper mono bullet. But to me, when I got this Idaho elk tag. You know, I just feel like I'd rather have more gun than I need, like potentially, than I just feel like there's more room for error. Like, why not have the extra knockdown power of a Magnum? And I'm still shooting a copper mono. Um, and that being said, I'm probably almost I'm not going to shoot over 500. I probably won't shoot over 400. I would shoot 500 maybe if the circumstances were perfect, and it was an elk, the big target zone. But anyway, I got that specifically because I personally would rather not hunt elk with a 6.5 Creedmoor. So I'm going to say take it away, Ned.
Well, yeah, man, I definitely don't think you're crazy. That's a beautiful rifle and a very capable setup. Yeah, that thing's awesome, man. Just to clarify, I'm not anti-Magnum at all. 300 Win Mag's a great round. I've owned a few of them. They're great guns. I just think that, like any tool of any kind in the world, Magnums have a very specific utility. And for shooting a big bull elk and a nasty part of the sawtooths in Idaho, that probably is a good option. If you're trying to anchor a big animal like that, that may be the right tool. The reason that I am a little bit hesitant to recommend Magnums for most shooters is because there's a lot more going on with the Magnum versus a standard intermediate rifle caliber. Like a 308 or 6.5 Creed or 7 mil at 8, whatever you have. There's a lot more going on with the Magnum versus that than most people think. So I hear a lot of guys say, okay, well, everybody knows that Magnums have more noise and recoil than a standard caliber. And I hear a lot of people say like, oh, well, I'm going to be wearing ear pro and recoil doesn't bother me. So what do I care? And
which I think I said those exact same things
like,
because
things don't bother me.
Yeah, because I grew up shooting, waterfowling with 3.5-inch shells that have a 12 gauge. So I think I did say that too. Although I do have a can supposed to be here soon, but I've already decided like it's too late in the game. I got my custom dial already. I'm zeroed. Like I'm not changing it now, so that's gonna have to be next year anyway. But I didn't want to interrupt you. I just want to say I was one of those guys that said, "Oh, I'm used to the recoil too." But I have noticed I'm going to say I'm definitely more accurate with that Creedmoor than I am with the Win Mag.
Well, I think that is a salient observation. In a world where there are not many absolutes, it is absolutely true that every shooter shooting the exact same rifle in a lighter recoiling caliber is more accurate. That is 100% true across the board. Lighter recoiling rifles are more easily to shoot accurately. And that's kind of where I start encountering some hesitancy with Magnums. People say noise and recoil with Magnums, but there's actually more going on than just that. Really, the correct way to say it is that there's a greater exchange of energy, right? Because if you put your physics hat on for a second, you're converting the chemical energy of the propellant into a lot of different stuff. And some of that is noise, some of that's recoil, some of that's heat. But also, you think about Newtonian physics, third law of Newtonian physics, every reaction equal and opposite reaction. Your recoil impulse is holistically greater with a Magnum caliber rifle than it is a standard caliber rifle. And a really great example of that is the video that I sent you the other day, which basically for the audience is a 60,000 frames per second view of a 30-06 firing, I think, 180 grain partition. It was put up by this guy, Brian Litz, who is a very knowledgeable ballistician, super scientific, very knowledgeable guy, probably knows more about ballistics than I ever will. And basically what it shows is they have a little stick indicating where the muzzle of the gun starts. And it shows this super slow-mo of the projectile exiting the rifle's barrel. And as you can see in this video, there's actually quite a bit of movement that happens before the projectile even exits the barrel of the rifle. Mm-hmm. And with the Magnum, you know, like we said, every part of the recoil impulse is going to be greater to include the amount that the rifle moves before the projectile exits. And so if you happen to be in anything other than an absolutely perfect shooting position in the field, right, then, you know, that discrepancy is going to be magnified. So that's one thing to think about. Another thing to think about, if you kind of put on your psychology hat, take your physics hat off and put your psychology hat on, if you're an experienced shooter, Magnum's probably a little bit easier for you to get used to. But if, you know, a lot of people ask me like, oh, what caliber should I get for their first rifle? Like when you asked me that question a few years ago, definitely not a Magnum, because, you know, you talk about the theory of primacy, right? Your first experience with a firearm is going to stick with you forever. I see a lot of people that have had their first rifle as one that recoils really hard. And those shooters, when I'm helping them or we're shooting together, it is very, very hard to get their fundamentals good, because every time they're doing, you know, they're squeezing their trigger to break a shot, they're thinking about how much that rifle is going to beat the stuffing out of them. So, and, you know, that only gets amplified more and more when you're looking at a big animal through the scope and your adrenaline's going and, you know, so those are some of the hesitancies I have with Magnums. Like I said, they're a very good tool for a specific set of circumstances. And
which would be,
you know, I think, well, yeah, if you're in a tough part of Idaho and you need to put an elk down quickly, that is a great tool there. One of the benefits that you get, like you were talking about, you're running copper monos. I think you said you're running the Barnes Vortex factory ammo.
180
that
grain.
In my opinion is, that's probably one of the best projectiles for elk hunting in existence. And running a Magnum, you extend the range at which that projectile will have adequate expansion by quite a bit. So that lets you take longer shots more ethically in terms of your terminal ballistic performance. So, you know, that's a very valid argument for Magnums. I will say, now it's been 8 months ago.
A good way to justify buying a new rifle to your wife too.
I need it, man. I mean, it's like I said, it's a very capable caliber. Caveat, you know, I was down in Texas in January doing a nilgai, and nilgai are known for being one of the most difficult animals on earth to kill. The bull that I shot was, you know, probably about 800, somewhere 900 pounds, big bull. And I shot that thing with my 30-06 one round, and it was down in less than 100 yards. So I think really where I fall on things, a really interesting book to read is Alaska's Wolfman by Frank Glazer. Basically, he was this Alaskan mountain man in the early 1900s. And bottom line is that guy killed more game, moose, Dall sheep, caribou, than probably anyone alive on the planet today ever has or will. And he talks about all the different rifles he had, and he basically says it's all about shot placement. You know, the different calibers don't really matter so much. Shot placement is like first, second, third, and fourth. And then you can start talking about everything else.
Totally.
So, you know, shot placement and bullet selection are number one and number two. And, you know, that's just me personally, I kind of like bow hunting with a rifle. In other words, getting as close as I can to animals that I'm going to shoot at. But yeah, like I said, there's definitely a specific set of circumstances, like if you need to justify a new firearm purchase.
Exactly.
That a Magnum is great for.
Yeah, no, I mean, like, I think you're spot on with the shot placement thing. I mean, yes, at the end of the day, I still feel more comfortable taking this Magnum with me on that Idaho hunt because of all the reasons we just said. However, I have no doubt that a well-placed shot from my Creedmoor with that load that we developed, just right in the Boilermaker of an elk, at relatively short yardage, 300 yards or something, 350. I have no doubt it would kill the elk. So I think you're totally spot on. Which I don't know if you noticed, but did you see in the Antelope film when my cousin, when his gun misfired with that 30-06, he did not flinch at all, and he does not shoot that much. Did you notice that?
I did. Yeah. Yep.
That was pretty good. But anyway.
Yeah, man. That was good fundamentals. I guess the thing I would say to kind of wrap up the ballistics discussion is, 6.5 Creed has gotten kind of a rap in the past few years. Like you see everybody just loves to rip on 6.5 Creed. And that's because people are trying to use the tool in a manner that it was not designed to be used, right?
Yeah.
Like people are trying to take all of these long range shots on large animals with an intermediate rifle caliber like that. And realistically, 6.5 Creed is a great round for 300-400 yards an end. It is not the caliber to be shooting at an elk or even a mule deer really at 500-600 yards. It just doesn't have a ton of energy downrange that far. So that's really the bad rap there. As long as you use your firearm appropriately, come up with a coherent way to set your maximum effective range, and then you stick to that. You see so many people these days that want to look cool taking a super long shot, and they stretch a situation beyond their capabilities. And I mean, the number of videos out there now of animals getting wounded where people are celebrating that as an accomplishment is, to me, that's not the way that I like my hunts to go. That's not what hunting's about on my end. I just think you got to use whatever tool you have selected appropriately.
Yeah. Other just random tip, if you're out there, if you're shooting factory ammo, I noticed the other day when I was shooting, I was shooting pretty good, and then stuff started to get weird, and I looked, and in a different box of factory ammo had completely different brass. It even had a different name stamped on it. It didn't say Barnes, it said Nexus, and it was a completely different color, and it wasn't shooting the same. So watch your factory ammo.
Man. Yeah, factory ammo. Getting into reloading the past 3 or 4 years has really been a great experience for me because, you start to notice exactly what you just said. There are a lot of discrepancies with factory ammo, not just with the components, but also the length of factory ammo, the dimensions that they load stuff, a lot of variation there. A lot of the propellants that they use in those are blends or mixes, and they're proprietary. And you never know if that's stayed the same. They're definitely, I like to say if you are shooting factory ammo, probably setting your MER at 300 yards is a good idea, at least for me. Yeah. That has never been something that I have found to be a limiting factor really in any of the places that I've hunted. And with as much variation as you encounter with stuff like you just said, it really just keeps your margin for error within an acceptable accuracy and precision limit.
Yeah, for sure, man. So what gun you taking on your antelope hunt?
7mm 8, man. That's that same rifle. I was, I put together a 6.5 PRC this year. But Yeah, the standard Alaska Gat, man. That thing's just it's a proven killer, and I ran a range with it this week, and it just hammers. I know that thing like the back of my hand. I've got a great load that has performed really well, and like I wanted to take my 6.5 PRC on this antelope hunt so that I could be a cool guy with a 500-yard MER and everything. But as it turns out, it's really hard to find ranges in Virginia where can like do a solid job of developing a legitimately field-tested dope card out to 500 yards.
It is hard. You basically have to do private land.
Oh, you definitely have to do private land. There's nowhere public, and the closest private land to where I am is like you got to spend a whole day going there just to run one range. Mm-hmm. So,
I found a spot. I found a spot with a friend but it's an hour and a half drive, and which is not like crazy, but if you're busy and you got a family, you got stuff to do. I mean, adding an extra 3 hours onto a range just in travel time is kind of annoying, but it is tough, man. Well, I do want to ask one last antelope question to bring us full circle, and then we can call it because I know you got stuff to do. But you mentioned like looking for good habitat and stuff like that. I'm curious, like as far as e-scouting goes, like what kind of stuff are you keying in habitat wise for antelope?
Well, this year, and I mean, I think realistically going forward, with a tag that is going to be hunted in August, you should probably be looking at water sources. You can look at historical precipitation maps. I think the National Weather Service puts out one that's pretty good, but pretty much everywhere with pronghorn antelope habitat, or almost everywhere in the West, is experiencing a pretty bad drought right now. Yeah, you probably want to be looking at water sources because animals have to water at least twice a day. And that's, they're only going to be so far from those. Yeah. They're surprisingly resilient in drought conditions. Antelope, from what I understand, do better than a lot of other species. But yeah, that's really like number one. It's like finding good habitat, and then finding good habitat that is within a reasonable range of water. So that's really the big driving force that I'm seeing. That can start to change a little later in the season when climatologically you probably will have more precipitation around the time of your hunt whenever that is, October or whatever. So then your priorities might shift a little bit and start looking for like trying to avoid hunting pressure and just getting into habitat that generally looks like good antelope habitat. But for my tag, it's going to be stuff that's near water sources. Yeah.
So my hunt will actually open in late September. So, could be even potentially getting a little bit of rutting activity at that point still. But I found, for the listeners maybe heading out for the first antelope hunt or whatever, like the areas that really we found was the best habitat were, and it's going to be different from where your hunt is probably, but large, and if you've hunted antelope, this is probably obvious, but large sage flats really what held the antelope in our experience. Although the one I killed was up on a ridge top. So it's not only that. So don't neglect the other stuff too. But actually it was kind of crazy. It was like a ridge and there was like a cliff on the bottom. And maybe it was pressure or something that had him up there. But we saw most of the animals in like large sage flats.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely when you think antelope, you should be thinking sage, prairie country. But in a unit like the one that you're talking about, either for your last hunt or this upcoming hunt, I find that the driving force for those animals during hunting season really is escaping pressure. Yeah. Because realistically, in the eastern third of Wyoming, there is pretty much good habitat for antelope everywhere.
Yeah.
Like almost all of that state, they can find good forage in. And the big thing is like you pull up on a piece of private that is next to a large area of public, pretty good chance that you're going to see a bunch of animals right over the line.
Oh
on
yeah,
the private
they
stuff.
know what's up.
So yeah, like they know, and the big thing they're trying to get away from is vehicles that are driving slowly.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, or stop. So
have they been having much problems?
That's really my biggest.
Sorry, this lag keeps screwing us up. Have they been having much problems with blue tongue out in Nevada? I've heard some guys talking about that in Wyoming, hurting the population some.
Yeah, I know there was an outbreak of it in northeastern Wyoming. It was pretty bad last year. I haven't heard about it so much in Nevada. The biggest thing that I've heard about in Nevada is that they've had some pretty bad wildfires this year, and just all of the fallout from this historic drought that's going on out there right now. But yeah, I think Nevada is one of the states that's less affected by all of those kind of wildlife pandemic diseases, CWD and EHD and everything. So,
cool, man.
I'm not a wildlife biologist, but my understanding is that they don't have to contend with those as much.
Yeah. Well, that's cool, man. I'm excited to see how your hunt goes. I'm sure probably sometime in the next couple weeks I'll be getting a photo come through on my phone of a nice buck, so looking forward to seeing that. And every time I talk to you, I learn a new word. Today's NED word was ballistician. Never heard that one. So Ned's a walking thesaurus, if you guys haven't figured that out yet. But yeah, man, good talking to you as always, dude.
Yeah, man. Hopefully that's exactly how it goes. Hopefully it's victory high fives and beers and all that good stuff here next week. Still got to put the legwork in though. You can't count your chickens before they hatch.
No, but that's what makes it fun, right?
Yeah, absolutely, man. It's always an adventure. I'm just super excited to see somewhere new. Get out there and see what this whole having a desirable tag thing is all about.
All right, cool, man. Well, when you send me that grip and grin, if it's cool with you, I'll share it, and then hopefully I'll be sending you one too. So anyway, dude, thanks again, and yeah, I'm sure I'll talk to you soon.
Yeah, man. Always a pleasure. Looking forward to see how everything shakes out with both of our falls this year.
Yeah, man. Alrighty.